This
Hello,
meeting is
everybody,
being recorded.
and welcome to today's edition of SIG Instrumentation. It is Thursday, April 14th, 2022. We have a pretty sparse agenda for today, but I wanted to pull in at least one announcement and possibly raise some sort of longer term discussions, bubble those down from sort of Kubernetes-wide chairs and leads meetings. So first item on the agenda, announcement. The release has been delayed. It was supposed to be happening next Tuesday, the 19th. It's been pushed 2 weeks primarily due to a Golang 118 bug that still hasn't been fixed. I think the release branch still hasn't been cut. So yeah, we're definitely not releasing next week. And I linked the PR in the SIG release repo that updates the dates. Any questions about that? I don't actually think that this affects us. I don't think that SIG Instrumentation has anything left in the milestone, but if I'm wrong, feel free to correct me. And then I wanted to sort of bubble down some discussions from the chairs and leads meetings. So this month we've been talking about three things. The first thing I think is maybe a little less applicable to us because I don't think that we don't own a lot of tests. So our tests don't tend to like flake in a release blocking way, but I think like SIG release and the CI signal team have been having some difficulty with ensuring that chairs and leads and like other responsible folks are being responsive to release blocking flakes. So, you know, we have our triage meeting. I don't think that we are in any like bad shape with that one. I'm pretty sure that when we get flakes, we deal with them in a timely fashion as we do any other things. We don't get a lot of volume there, but I wanted to raise that to folks' attention because apparently this is a problem for some SIGs. So I'm curious if we even have any flakes under instrumentation right now.
We had the like metrics gatherer ones for a while, but I think those
yeah, like good news. We currently have 0 open flakes, so that's not a problem for us. But you know, if this happens, we should be responsive. Han and I know this as chairs. It's our responsibility to make sure that those things are getting handled. So I don't know if there are anything to add on that one, but wanted to let everyone know that that's a thing that the release team is having difficulty with. So please help them out if you see that happening. The next topic is about improving reliability. I think there's like a giant cap, which includes like a power to block the release or other like quite, I mean, I guess compared to like Kubernetes developments previously, like somewhat drastic measures. And there's a lot of like means in which we were talking about like how reliability in Kubernetes is a problem and how this is like slowing down development because a lot of parts of the code don't have a lot of good tests, and then you change something, you're like, well, CI is going to catch that, right? But then it turns out there was no coverage for it. So something ends up being broken, and either it doesn't get caught in tests at all, and we end up getting a user bug, which is like probably the worst case scenario, or still a bad case scenario is it like causes a race condition or something like that, and it starts flaking on a test. But then go back to item 1, the flake doesn't get addressed, and people don't realize that there was a regression. So there's some proposals being discussed about how we might better handle this sort of thing. I just wanted to make sure that folks were aware that that was like kind of floating around, in particular, like the idea that like if we are having serious reliability issues, some people are talking about having the power to block a release or to block features for inclusion in a release, and to give everybody a chance to like weigh in on that or possibly add to the discussion there if you're not aware that that's happening.
No, I mean, I think stricter test makes sense. We don't want to be emerging in bad code, I think.
Yeah, I mean, the problem is that we don't have the tests, and I'm definitely curious, like what the incentives are here. I suppose that the chairs and leads meeting sort of like go under the Chatham House rules. So like I'm not going to point any specific things that like anybody raised in that meeting. But if you look at some of the public comments, there are concerns of like, like chairs and leads sort of have limited powers. Like they can't make anyone do anything. And so like, is this actually making the situation better? Which I think is a very fair point. So I don't know if other folks have, certainly like the idea of like being able to block a release. I just want folks to know that like that's something being proposed. That's not necessarily accepted, but if you haven't looked at it and you want to weigh in, you should probably do that.
How is this different from just regular release blocking tests?
That's a good question. I think the idea, it's been a while since I read over the cap, but like I think the idea would be they can say we just won't accept your features. Like in addition to like they're going to block the release to make sure the thing gets fixed, but they can also say we're just not going to allow you to merge any of this stuff. Which is like I don't even know what the enforcement mechanism would be, because previously that's been like milestone maintainers kind of thing. So maybe the idea is they just don't take milestone protection off. And like somebody has to ack every change going into Kubernetes. Like that's me spitballing. I don't know if that's exactly how they would do it, but that is a possible enforcement mechanism. I think that would not be great. But like, yeah, I mean, if that's what people think needs to be done in order to prevent like so many people from kind of doing heroism to chase down regressions, then maybe that's what we do. I don't know.
No, I think it's fair to dump it on us. Generally, I mean, people have to propose caps in order to get instrumentation code in. So, I mean, we have to safeguard the stuff at some point. It does fall on us.
Yeah. Yes and no. This is true for new features. And I think within our own SIG, like we have a pretty sustainable workload generally.
We do.
It's not like, like to give an example, SIG node will often get like 20 to 25 people like trying to propose graduating enhancements in a given release, which is a lot. Whereas like we might have 2 or 3 in a given release. So it's easier to make sure that like everything is getting the attention and like reviewer time that it needs. But there are certain things that like wouldn't fall under like, sort of the enhancements review. So for example, bug fixes, like what happens if the bug fix makes something worse? That could potentially happen. Another possibility is like, what if someone does a refactor, right? They refactor something, they think it's a no-op, no test changes are required, right? But then it turns out there wasn't a particular case like providing some coverage and they actually broke that case and we find out about it later, but it was a refactor. So like there was no release note, like everybody thought this was safe and then it turns out it wasn't. That's the kind of things that they've been discussing. Cool. And then I guess the last topic to bubble up, which Han, you sort of segued into nicely, is like enhancements process. And I know we've talked about this a little bit as a SIG before. A thing that I really pushed, Stephen was presenting this, and I think that I really pushed him on is like ensuring that like we know what problem we're trying to solve and that it solves that problem for everyone, all of the stakeholders involved, like SIG chairs and leads, like authors of enhancements, the release team. Like it shouldn't just be targeted at one particular group. I don't know if anybody has read through the receipts cap in its existing state, which I think is one of the things that people are being asked to comment on. I personally think that it adds a lot of paperwork burden, and I don't understand what the benefit is or what the problem it's trying to solve is. So
can you give a brief summary of the cap?
The idea I think would be that each cap would have like, how there's like a cap.yaml file right now with a bunch of metadata. I believe that it would be like kind of an expansion of that. And that would be like more like the data in there would be required to be more accurate. And I haven't looked at it in a while again, because I feel like it was a year ago the last I looked at this, but it was quite a change. But ultimately, like the goal I think was just to like use that to auto generate a spreadsheet or something like that. And my hot take from that was like, well, honestly, I feel like this is asking everybody to do like a ton more work. And ultimately, we're still going to have a spreadsheet. And I don't know that this will actually improve anything, because now instead of like the burden of, just like, okay, I can update a cell in a spreadsheet. Now the burden is like, I have to submit a PR and get it merged. And I'm worried that the turnaround for that will be very slow. And I know, at least right now, in my experience as especially like a PRR approver, people have a really difficult time filling out the kep.yaml metadata correctly to start with, and there's not very much in there that's required. So if anything, like I would advocate like getting rid of the kep.yaml metadata or making it smaller.
No, you can use kepctl to generate the.
As somebody on the PRR team, I have been a user of kepctl, and it frequently breaks. Like,
yeah, I know. I just fixed it. I literally just fixed it.
I didn't even know it existed. I've been
kepctl, yeah, I've had to like do a bunch of things to fix it because it wouldn't even work. So I don't know that like kepctl is in sort of like a GA state where like
it's not, but it works now. I literally just fixed it.
I am grateful to you for doing this, but given every single past experience I've had with it, and given how much limited time I have around their release deadline, the idea of every single time I need to use kepctl, I have to go in and try to like fix it, because that has been my experience the last 3 times I've tried to use it, is not an acceptable user experience for something that we are going to make everyone in Kubernetes use, particularly also including people who aren't necessarily like writing code and are trying to help out with the release. Like these are people who are not necessarily like even pushing stuff to GitHub. So like, Han, tell me more. Because you're saying that, oh, well, there's just kepctl. How does kepctl make the enhancements process better or less work for you? Because I know that you have been outspoken in the past in terms of how it is
because exactly what you're talking about. There's like a zillion fields that you need to fill out in order for it to be valid, for it to pass the hack validations. This is the fix. It was weird because they were just not mostly plumbing stuff all the way through. You need like approvers, you need PRR approver, you need an author. Yeah, it was mostly just plumbing some stuff.
Yeah. So one of my concerns is that like, I personally think that it is redundant and toil and a bad use of people's time to ask them to fill that stuff out in metadata, because that can automatically be generated from the Git history.
Possibly.
And I think that's part of why we're having a lot of difficulty getting folks to actually like fill this out accurately. Like it is a struggle for me to get people just to set the current milestone correctly, set the historical milestones correctly, and like set the phase of the enhancement correctly. That's just 3 fields. There's like probably at least a dozen that are currently supported. And in my experience, like they are almost never accurate. Or like they're just not filled out, they're just ignored, in part because you can get this information from other sources, and fundamentally like the other sources are the canonical truth. Like I can put an updated date in that field, but it's not necessarily going to be true. As soon as I update the kep again, that's going to change. So if I forget to update it, then that's a problem. If I need to like update it every single time that I make a change, that's a terrible user experience, I think, because it's an additional thing for me to do for benefit that I don't really see. I think maybe a way that this could work is if like we had some tool that was kind of like make update that just filled that all out automatically, so nobody had to do any work. You know, like they just like kind of typed make update in the same way that there's like a hack script to fix the table of contents, and it automatically populated all of this information for them.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's like basically the next step is to have a hack script that invokes capcutl, like capcutl fix or something.
So that, I think that could work for the stuff that's like automatically generatable, but like some things are not easily. So those are things like what the current phase is, when it graduated, that kind of thing. And I think that mixing that in a file that is like half edited by hand, half auto-generated is also not a great user experience.
I mean, we're kind of using GitHub as a database. We should really just create like a cap UI with an actual database, because then you can have like validations and people can like upload stuff.
So all of this is true, but Han, let me go back to my original question. What is this solving? What is this making better for people who are writing caps? Like fundamentally, as a reviewer,
What,
as a cap author,
or the
any of
cap.yaml
this stuff, any of this stuff. Like,
well,
I want the
capcutl
process to be more
makes
less
the
painful,
process
right?
less painful for me,
But
because
like,
I
what
don't
if we
have.
just made the process better? Like, this is what I'm
Yes.
saying.
Yes,
Like,
I mean,
don't
like we're
the
putting a
idea-
Band-Aid over. Yeah,
Exactly,
I mean,
exactly. Like, it's
a lambda
fine.
should be, yeah.
I don't like processes can change. Fundamentally, I want to say, like, what problem are we trying to solve? If the process sucks, let's fix the process. Let's not write tools to paper over a sucky process. This is like my concern with this stuff. It's like, well, we're talking about like adding a bunch of tooling, possibly a bunch of toil. Maybe there are some ways that we can do this, but ultimately we're looking at technical problems to a process, or technical solutions to a process problem. And I don't understand what this is solving, other than maybe taking the existing process that I think is already too heavyweight, and I've definitely gotten that feedback from other folks in the SIG, and making it more painful. Maybe slightly less painful because we pull those in tools, but for the people who don't know the tools, it's going to be more painful for them, particularly if the tools are buggy.
Yeah, I mean, look, I just sometimes want to create a cap, and capcutl is the easiest thing for me to create that cap, because otherwise I have to figure out exactly what all of the required fields are. And at least capcutl has some validation that is built into it, so I can at least fix the plumbing.
David,
I don't
do
know.
you have anything to add?
No. I think it's probably fine. And I would prefer if things were a bit simpler, but I feel like small incremental changes are probably better. So I probably don't want to expand the set of fields too far, but.
Cool. Sorry, I just wanted to give you a chance to jump in. I wasn't sure if you had something to add. So Han, I don't know. I've never used capcutl to create a cap. The README says to copy and paste the like template folder, which is what I've always done. And then just basically like validate it until the validations pass.
Yeah,
It
see,
usually
that's
tells you what breaks.
basically what I hate doing, because the template is basically like broken, and then you have to like run against the verify thing, and then like
Yeah,
infer
I
all
agree.
the broken things.
It's kind of a
So
bad
yeah,
experience.
no, capcutl is like 1,000 times better because it auto generates the right things and then it'll validate.
But I do wonder, like, it just seems like so heavy and so much paperwork to do all of these things. Like, if we're gonna reimagine, like if we're gonna make changes that are gonna affect everybody, and possibly like in ways that like are gonna affect us for many upcoming releases, I just want to think a little bigger. Like, you know, the enhancement process in its current state really, I think, has honestly only existed since like after 114. And
Yeah, a few years.
Yeah, like it's not been like eternally like this in all of Kubernetes. It's getting more and more heavyweight. And I just want to let's think creatively. Like, do we need this process? Is it serving us? How do we make
No,
it better? How do we reduce the amount of work?
Easy. There's an easy answer to this, and the answer is to move our code, instrumentation code, out of tree.
But that doesn't solve the problem for enhancements for everyone.
It doesn't. But I'm saying, like, what creative ways can we use to make the process easier? And I am saying this is one way to make the process easier, which is circumventing it altogether.
Is this really that much of a problem for our SIG? I feel like this is a problem for lots of other SIGs, but we've got like 5 caps.
Yeah, well, I mean, like, I don't really even want to create caps because it's such a pain in the butt. And I would do it if it was not as toilsome. There's like things I would like to implement, but basically the process of
that is the problem. I think that is the underlying problem, not tooling, not YAML files. Like, I don't want to do this because the process sucks. That tells me we need to fix the process, and let's bypass the process by spinning our stuff out of tree. I don't think solves that problem.
It does. It solves it for us.
It may solve it for us, but we are a horizontal spanning SIG. And I'm not actually convinced it solves it for us, because anytime we want to do something that will touch other components that are in tree, we're back in the same situation. It's like looking at kubelet tracing or contextual logging.
Everything we do is gonna need a cap for the other.
I mean, there's some stuff that we could just move into importable vendored folder.
There is some of stuff, but ultimately, I don't think it's the majority. I don't think it's going to solve the problem for us. And I think we should be good stewards. We should be good citizens. You know, we should be working with the rest of Kubernetes, even if we could solve the problem for ourselves and like everybody else is stuck in the boat where the process sucks.
This is just not really a hill I want to die on.
I don't want to die on any hill. I don't think anybody should be dying.
No, you know, it's like, look, it's a pain. People are adding more process to enhancements, not taking it away. And
so that's why I'm saying, like, if we don't give them feedback, if we don't give them alternatives, this is only going to get more painful. And I think that we need to be clear and united in saying, hey, this is hurting us. This is making it difficult for us to do important things. This is a huge barrier for new contributors. Like, all of these things that matter a lot to the project. If we're not giving that feedback and we're just opting out, it's only going to get worse. I'm not saying it's like a hill we need to die on. I don't think anybody's dying here, but like, I don't think that it's necessarily something we need to get into a big fight for, or like something that we need to like sort of like draw a line in the sand or anything like that. I think that we just need to ensure that that feedback's getting bubbled up and that that's being considered in these discussions.
I mean, I look, if like me personally, I only have so much mental energy to expend where like I just don't feel like going and talking to the enhancement people and telling them the process sucks. Like, it just, you know.
But you're willing to do that for me, and that's why I'm having this discussion. So then me or, you know, David or somebody else can go take it to them and say, hey, we're consistently getting this feedback from members of our SIG, especially new contributors who are encountering a really high barrier to entry when it comes to doing this work. Like,
yeah, they should document kepcuttle. I mean,
right,
like people don't even know it exists, right? Like, you know, there's also Capify, which turns YAMLs into caps, I think. But yeah, Capify.
I'm fine with extra fields and stuff as long as I still run the same kepcuttle command to generate it all. I just don't want to have to do anything additional that's manual. Otherwise, they can add as much metadata as they want if they want to.
Yeah, if you can run the kepcuttle commands to generate the thing, it's like not that bad.
Yeah,
it's pre-kepcuttle, life sucked.
Yeah,
and that's why I actually fixed it, was because I wanted to, like, this is like literally the easiest way to generate a new cap, and the template copying thing makes no sense, like, because it gets out of date and it doesn't actually match the parity of the hack scripts anymore. And like, it's always out of sync with the hack scripts, right? like there should be like, and that's why KepCuddle is a little bit better.
Well, does KepCuddle end up just copying the template file? Like, I'm not talking about kep.yaml, but like the other.
It has a
thing.
YAML file, so it has like a defined structure for the expected output. It uses, yeah, the defined objects.
Okay, we are at 10 o'clock my time. Catherine, you were clapping earlier. Did you have anything to add? Or are you just stretching?
No, because I'm in the meeting room, so the light turn off, so I need to clap. So the light will turn on.
Okay, so you're not just really excited about this discussion. That's unfortunate.
Yeah, I'm excited, but not for the for the light in my meeting.
I understand. And how do you have anything to add?
Currently,
Oh,
no.
hey, no, just have a look at the news.
Cool. Okay, well, we are now officially 1 minute over our time, so I will give you, the rest of your day back. It's nice to see everybody. I will do my best to bubble this feedback up as chair on behalf of the SIG. I think that there were some great points made, and thanks for attending today.
Thank you.
See you, everyone.
Bye. Bye.